When it comes to menopause, which symptom do you think of first? Hot flashes, of course, right? But did you know that there are over 33 other symptoms that have been officially linked to menopause? I know, that's crazy, right? There's a list of 34 symptoms that I want to share with you. Now, some of them have become more known recently, like brain fog, sleep disturbances, and stubborn weight gain. But I can guarantee you that some of the other 30 or more symptoms on this list are going to surprise you. And I'm sharing this with you so that you don't have to go through what I went through. I'm 62 years old now. I had my first hot flashes around the age of 44 or 45, but long before, we're talking years before my first hot flash, like when I was in my late 30s, I started having some of these symptoms. But I had no idea, I was completely clueless that these symptoms had anything to do with changing hormones. And the sad thing is, neither did my doctors. And so I suffered quite a bit with some of these. So let's dive into this list. And we will start with the most common physical symptoms first. And the first one on the list, of course, the flagship, hot flashes. And this is when you suddenly become hot, sweaty, or flushed, especially in the face, neck, and throat, chest area. Hot flashes can be very dramatic. It can feel like a heat bomb going off inside. And then the second symptom is night sweats. And night sweats are basically hot flashes that occur at night when you're sleeping, or I should say when you are trying to sleep. I know it's very difficult to do. And some women, not all, but some women experience chills after their night sweats. And it is estimated that something like 75% of women experience hot flashes or night sweats during their menopausal transition. The next one is irregular periods. Now, this happens basically during perimenopause, when the length of time between periods become more erratic, longer or shorter. Your menstrual flow of blood may become lighter or heavier, and you may even skip some periods. And eventually, this is where periods stop completely. And that's when menopause becomes official, when there are no more periods. And the next symptom is trouble sleeping. This is a problem that apparently 40 to 60% of women experience, it's estimated. Of course, night sweats being one reason, but it's not the only reason. But just overall, women have trouble getting a good night's sleep, and it can become quite serious, insomnia being when it's more chronic. The next symptom on the list is dizzy spells. Now, this one surprised me. Apparently, dizziness is one of the most common symptoms of menopause. Next symptom is fatigue. Tiredness, exhaustion. You are not making it up that you feel lacking in energy. The changes in our hormonal levels can affect us very much in this way. And so the next symptoms on the list involve appearances. And so this next one is stubborn weight gain. This is one of the most, let's say, attention-getting symptoms of menopause. And this can include a stubborn belly fat or fat on our thighs and butt. And it, like, no matter what we try to do, dieting, exercise, it seems like we can't get it off. This is one of the most frustrating symptoms that women complain about. The next one is acne. Yes, getting pimples and acne like when we were a teenager. In my case, I got it worse than I was a teenager. So then the next one on the list is thinning hair. If it feels like there's more hair coming out in your hairbrush, that can be a symptom of your changing hormones. And the next symptom on the list is, it's so ironic that it's more hair on your face, more facial hair. So hair, losing hair on our head and gaining more hair on our face. This is where sometimes women get the beginnings of a mustache or little hairs on their chin. And again, it's the changing hormone levels that are contributing to that. The next symptom on the list is brittle or weak nails. This is where nails crack or break more easily. I know in my case, I've had splitting nails where there's like a chronic split. Let's go on to the next set of physical symptoms that, again, some of these are going to surprise you being related to the menopausal transition. And the next one on the list is hormonal changes can affect our allergies, either allergies that we've already been experiencing. The hormonal changes could make them worse or trigger entirely new allergies. And the next one on the list is changes in digestion. Female sex hormones can influence the microbes a person has in their mouth and digestive tract. Gut flora can change in composition. There's been so much talk in the last few years about the microbiome. Who knew that hormones can affect the microbiomes? Individuals may notice changes in their digestion or that they might be starting to react differently to certain foods. Again, I could go on and on about this topic. In fact, I'll probably do an entirely separate video on this because I have had a very personal journey with this symptom. But anyway, on to the next one is itchiness. And I mean everywhere. Again, skin and our girly bits. Itchiness is a symptom of the hormonal changes. And the next one, this can be embarrassing, is body odor. And I'll just say it doesn't necessarily have to persist, but at different points in the menopausal transition, whether during perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, there can be changes in how our body smells. And so I told you there'd be some surprising symptoms on this list. So the next set of symptoms involve pain. And the next one on the list then is some women experience more frequent headaches or migraines as a result of hormonal changes. And the next symptom on the list is muscle tension or aches, again, as a result of the changing hormones. Next on the list is some women experience pain in their joints. And then lastly, breast soreness. Now, this is not just your cyclical PMS breast soreness, that this can happen more chronically because of wildly fluctuating hormone changes. I want to put a couple of symptoms on your radar that can be more serious. And the first one is osteoporosis, and the phase leading up to it being osteopenia, kind of like a pre-phase heading in the direction of osteoporosis. Now, this is caused by a decline in estrogen that can result in loss of bone density, and this is where our bones become more fragile and where they can break more easily. Now, the diagnosis of osteoporosis usually happens in postmenopause, like often many years after menopause. But the thing is that the process is happening earlier. It begins earlier while we are in the midst of the menopausal transition. And this is where it's so important to get attention to help prevent or at least make the process less severe. So just want to put that on your radar to keep an eye out for that, because again, prevention is much more doable than curing it or reversing it later on. The other symptom, again, I want to put on your radar is irregular heartbeat or palpitations. Again, that can be a symptom associated with hormonal change. And so the next category of symptoms on the list have to do with the vajayjay or vaginal area and the urinary tract area. And so the next symptom on the list is decreased libido and arousal. So Menopause can commonly affect libido, and that is our desire for sex. And this can be a direct result of having lower levels of testosterone and estrogen. And this can make physical arousal more difficult, and basically orgasm more difficult. So there's lower desire and lower arousal, which is one of the official symptoms on the list. But again, I'll say more about it after we're through. I actually experienced the opposite. I think that should be on the list too, but I'll say more about that after we're through. The next symptom on the list is vaginal dryness. As female sex hormones become lesser in the body, this can decrease blood flow and therefore natural lubrication. And this dryness can make sex very uncomfortable and even make penetrative sex difficult. And there's another symptom. I'm surprised it's not on the official list, but it's called vaginal atrophy. I think women really need to know about it. This is more of an issue in postmenopause, but where the vagina actually becomes smaller, and I mean much smaller, like we're talking like a virgin smaller. For some reason, it's not on the list, but it should be. And then the next symptom is recurring urinary tract infections, or UTIs, as they're often abbreviated to. And these can become much more common after menopause, in postmenopause. And again, can become chronic. And part of it is because of the thinning tissue in the urinary area. Now, along with the vaginal thinning, there's also the urinary tract thinning. And then the next symptom is frequent or sudden urge to urinate. And some call it an overactive bladder, but if you have a sense of needing to go to the bathroom to pee more often during this transition, again, you're not alone. It's not just you. It's not something to be ashamed of. And all of these are symptoms that, again, you should be discussing with a gynecologist. But we'll get to what to do about all these after we get through the list. And then on to what I consider to be some of the stranger symptoms on the list. The next one being burning mouth. This is where a feeling of burning, tenderness, tingling, heat, or numbing in or around the mouth. Who knew? The mucus hormones in the mouth have sex hormone receptors, and because of the decrease in estrogen, this can, for some women, again, it's a rarer symptom, but some women experience pain and discomfort in their mouth. Then the next one is some women experience sensations that resemble electric shocks during perimenopause and menopause. Apparently, it's not clear what causes this, but it's something about how the changing hormone levels may be affecting the nervous system. The next item on the list is changes in taste with stronger flavors during menopause. They may also experience a dry mouth, which can lead to a higher risk of developing gum disease or cavities as a result of changing hormones. And then the last one on this strange list is tinnitus. This is the ear ringing, the sense of hearing a sound that has no external causes. And there can be either ringing or roaring or buzzing. It can affect one or both ears. And again, it has been correlated with possibly being caused by changing hormones. Who knew? I know it's wild, right? So these lesser known symptoms definitely remind us that menopause is such a unique experience for each and every woman. Let's shift to the last set of symptoms on the official list that have to do with our mind and our emotions. Now, for many women, these symptoms are the most troubling, the most disturbing, and most impactful in terms of quality of life. And in many cases, women have not put two and two together that their hormonal changes may have something to do with them. And as I've said before, and in many cases, neither have doctors, which compounds their impact. So the first on this section of the symptom list is brain fog or difficulty concentrating. Now, this is kind of a mental fogginess where women complain of feeling like it's hard to retain information and that they struggle to stay focused. Some women have described it like their brain feels like cotton wool. And obviously, especially if one is in a demanding job, this can be very impactful. And the next symptom is memory lapses. As with the previous problem of concentration and focus problems, the hormonal change can also affect memory and increase forgetfulness. And sometimes women really get self-conscious about not remembering names or forgetting where to put our keys or cell phone. Again, you're not alone. And this does not have to be a chronic, permanent change, but it's something that many, many women experience at some point during the menopausal transition. And then the next symptom, again, especially around emotions, is our mood changes. This can be very unsettling, where there are unpredictable shifts in mood that are unrelated to life events. These mood changes can cause a woman to feel suddenly sad, weepy, or angry, disproportionate to what's going on. The next symptom, which is related, is irritability, rage, or anger. Many women have expressed that they experience uncontrollable rage during menopause. And like I said, if this is you, you're not alone. And the next one is depression. The percentage of women who go on antidepressants once they've hit perimenopause on up, we're talking about millions of women, and they may or may not be aware of this correlation with hormonal changes, which brings us to the next symptom, which is anxiety and panic disorder. And again, many, many women are on one kind of mood-altering drug during their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and may be unaware that hormonal changes can be influencing these symptoms. And so again, if that's you, please be sure that you're getting the support and help that you need, not only from a therapist, but that this could be a good reason to also be going to a gynecologist that you trust to address the underlying hormonal changes as well. And so that's the official list. Were there any surprises for you? How many have you experienced? Or maybe there's other women in your life that you care about or you work with, and you realize that they've been going through some of these symptoms, and maybe they're not aware that it may have something to do with the menopausal transition. And hopefully there were some ahas, some light bulb moments for you. I shared this again with you, hoping that you don't have to go through what I went through. And what I mean by that, okay, so I'm 62 years old now. As I mentioned, I had my first hot flashes when I was, 44, 45. But starting around 38, 39, going back to the list, right, of the symptoms, I started experiencing migraines when I was 38. Had never had them before in my life. Started having them when I was 38. Then insomnia, crippling insomnia. Then changes in smell. But then the serious, very serious symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks starting in my early 40s. I mean, I thought I was losing my mind, and it was crippling and impacted my career, and I had no idea what was going on. And again, as I said, neither did my doctors. And so I had no idea that any of those symptoms had anything to do with the hormonal transition. I had no idea I was in perimenopause, but it has been an ongoing experience of having symptoms for some period of time before realizing that they're a part of the menopausal transition. I hope that by sharing it with you and you sharing it with other women that you know, that you don't have to go through that. This is information that I hope can get into as many women's hands as possible. So again, please, and if you have women in your life that you care about that may be it's any phase of the menopausal journey that may be experiencing these symptoms, please share this video. And so on some of the symptoms, it may have seemed obvious, but I just want to make sure it's clear that some symptoms are more common during certain phases of menopause than others. And I go into the different phases of menopause in another video called The Ages and Stages of Menopause Truth Bomb. here. And if you want to know more about perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, when they happen, check out that video. But again, for example, just to go back to the list here, irregular periods are a function of perimenopause, obviously, because as you're still menstruating. Some of the other symptoms like osteoporosis are more of an issue with postmenopause and so on and so forth. But some of them can happen at every stage. So, but it's helpful to just know that I can testify. You don't have to worry about getting all of these symptoms at one time. Thank goodness, right? Now that I'm 62, now that I'm here at this point in my life, I can say I have experienced half of the symptoms on this list, but I didn't experience them all at one time. And again, I had mentioned that there are some symptoms that are not on the list. I think they should be on the list, and so I want to share some experiences that I've had them, and maybe you have too. Maybe we'll create a petition and get them added. I already mentioned one of them. It's relatively minor, but that is the change in smell. My nose is dramatically more sensitive than it was before I started the menopausal transition. Another one, as I alluded to as I was going over the list, on the list is low libido. Well, and when I was going through perimenopause, I had the opposite experience. I had a very high libido. And I have spoken with many women who have had the same experience. And so I think that should be on the list. Another angle on symptoms that are not just all negative. And you'll hear me talking about this often when it comes to turning your menopausal superpowers. There are positive symptoms that have happened for me also since I've gone through the menopausal transition, especially now that I'm in postmenopause. I am definitely my best self. I am emotionally, spiritually, I am just a more joyful, more peaceful, wiser, more grateful human being. I'm more comfortable in my own skin, more loving, compassionate, and that sort of thing that has happened during this time. And I do not think it's a coincidence that it has happened during this menopausal transition. I think it has a lot to do with it. And so it's not all negativity. It's not all frustration and challenge. There can be some wonderful symptoms that happen during the menopausal transition. And so I'm here to champion those as well. And which you'll hear me over and over again say that so much of the suffering is unnecessary, that with the proper knowledge, the support, and empowerment, that much of what we go through is unnecessary. We don't have to feel sabotaged during the transition the way so many of us do. There is so much available to us, really stepping into our best selves. And so, again, you'll hear me talk about that a lot and turn on your menopausal superpowers. But in the next video in this series, we're going to go over what I call symptom whack-a-mole. Probably would be more to say symptom remedy whack-a-mole that so many women go through in response to these symptoms of trying to cure them, almost like putting out fires. where you're trying to focus on one symptom and not working and maybe even causing other ones. It's a crazy experience. And if you're going through that, or if you know someone who is, definitely check out the next video. Again, symptom whack-a-mole. And so, please let me know which of the symptoms, which part of the list was most helpful for you, most impactful, and share which symptoms you have experienced and that you would like to let other women, especially those if they're not on the list. And thank you for watching the video. And I'm Lil Glamben with Turn On Your Menopausal Superpowers, your go-to for inspiration, optimism, and empowerment when it comes to menopause, from peri to post. And please subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video.